It's TK Friday, and today in the Joy of Editing, I'm doing a full edit of At a River on a Misty Morning. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Today it's something a little different, a nice misty morning on the At a River. I've entitled this image Misty Morning, and it comes to us from Carlo Freddi. Thank you, Carlo, for the use of your image. As always, you can download this image and the PDF notes and give this edit a try. Now, I'm just giving you suggestions. You could turn it in, obviously, into whatever you want. After doing some basic edits in Lightroom Classic, I'll then send this image into Photoshop, where we'll pull out the TK9 plugin for Photoshop and fully develop this image. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I'll have links in the description below this video that'll take you over to Tony Kepper's web store. There you're going to find the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, a lot of great panels over there you can pick up. Sean Bagshaw's training videos, which I highly recommend. And you'll also find the TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer plugins. They're sold as a bundle. You'll get both plugins for $12. If you're into black and white photography, you'll love TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer. Use my promo code DK15 and you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. When you use my promo code, I make a small commission, and this helps to support my channel, so I really appreciate it when you use my promo code. And not only are you helping me out, but you're getting 15% off. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, this is what Carlo's image looks like right out of the camera. And after I made my adjustments, just some basic adjustments, it now looks like this. And basically, I used a linear profile, clicked on auto, and I made some fine-tuning adjustments here. I wanted to make sure I'm not clipping white or black points. I want to keep this image nice and soft and keep that misty morning feel. I also did do a white balance adjustment. I just used the cloudy preset. I did do a crop in the image. Now, as far as detail, I used Lightroom's AI denoise, no sharpening. And as always, for lens corrections, I removed chromatic aberration, enable profile correction, but that's it. And then at this point, I just right-click on the image, go to Edit In, and click on Edit in Photoshop 2026. And now for the fun. Now, I started out doing things a little differently. I usually do a balance and contrast adjustment using the color grading tool, but this time I did it different. I started out with zone adjustments, and it worked out really well for this image. I did try using a sky and foreground balance and contrast adjustment, but I didn't like it as much, so I opted for zone adjustments. Now, how do you apply a zone adjustment? Well, you come up to the multi-mask panel and you hold down your shift key and you could click on curves, levels, brightness, contrast. You have these three options, so I'm holding my shift key down and clicking on brightness contrast. And you'll note I have a group called Adjust with Zones, and inside it I have zone 1, that's the darkest zone. They get lighter as they go up, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I start out with 1. They are all controlled with Blend If, targeting the different luminosity zones. Now, if you want to see where those zones hit, you could come to the Combo or CX panel and click this double arrow magenta button, and you can see these are the dark tones right in here in zone 1. Click this button again to go back to the image. So you could take a look at where all of these different zones hit. We're going to start with zone 1. What I want to do is darken it up, not too much. It's a misty morning, so I don't want to go too dark and add too much contrast. I'm going to take this to the left over to -41. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. See, just a little gentle darkening. Now I'll click on zone 2. And here, I just want to lighten up that zone a little bit. See, I'm going to move this to the right. You can see the areas that are lightening up there. Isn't that cool? I'm just going to take this over to right there, 15. I want to be really gentle here. And then let's just give it some contrast. I'll take the contrast slider. We'll drag it to the right over to right there, 21. Now let me shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. Just a minimal adjustment. Lights up the foggy area a little bit. Now let's click on zone 3. Let's see where that zone hits. So we'll click this button on the combo panel. We can see where that area hits. Okay, I just want to darken that area up a little bit, that zone. So we'll take this to the left just a little wee bit, not much, over to -7. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. See, just a minimal adjustment. And now let's click on zone 4. And I just want to darken up zone 4 a little bit. I'll move the brightness slider to the left. See what it's doing up there in the sky. And I don't want to go crazy. You may already think I am, but I don't want to go any more crazy than I am. We'll go to -27. I'll shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. Just tones down the light areas in the sky. And now I'll click on zone 5. Let's see where that area hits. Just right there, just a little bit of light coming through there. I'll just lighten that up a little bit. Let's click this button again to shut off the overlay. And I just want to brighten that. See that area right there get lighter. I don't want to go too much here either. So we're just going to go over to right there, +14. Not much of a change. I won't add any contrast. And now let's shut off this group. Here's before. And here is after. So we're off to a good start. Now at this point, I highly recommend that you click right here and collapse this group because your next adjustment will go inside that group if you don't, and you don't want that to happen. So collapse the group. And now I just want to add a little bit of mid-tone contrast. So here's what we'll do. Come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the Luminosity mask button. We have 3 midtones, midtones 1, 2, and 3. They're all midtones, but they get lighter as they go up. So we're going to go to midtones 1, just a subtle midtone adjustment. I'll put that to a curves adjustment layer, so click this button. We're going to use a preset for the curves, one of the contrast curves, so we're going to click the drop down. Right now we're on default, just a linear straight line there. And what we want is strong contrast. We're going to click this button. You don't see a whole big change because I'm using this midtones 1 mask, which is a really gentle midtone. But I want to protect my darkest dark, so we'll use blend if for that. So click on the edit blend if button and click no darks 2. That keeps it out of the darkest darks. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. Now usually after a midtone contrast, I always like to lighten up the midtones a little bit. They get a little dark after the midtone contrast. So let's lighten up the midtones. Now we need to get to the multi-mask panel. Right now the edit blend if panel is in the way, so click the X. And now again, click the luminosity mask button. This time I want a little stronger midtone. I'm going to use midtones 2. And I'll output it to a brightness contrast adjustment. So we'll click this button right here. And now we have that midtones 2 mask on a brightness contrast adjustment. And all I want to do is lighten that up a little bit in the midtones. So we're going to take this slider to the right. You see how I'm just lightening up the midtones? And I'll go to not too much, but right here at 10. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. See, it just lightens the midtones up a little bit. I'll shut both these layers off. This is before the midtone contrast, and this is after. And it pops the color a little bit. And up next, I do want to work on color. And this next adjustment is just my interpretation of this image, the way I want to see this image. Okay, so I want to work with its colors. And there's no right or wrong here. It's really up to you to edit this image in the way you want to see it look. I'll use a vibrance mask to pull out the weaker colors. So let's come up to the multi-mask panel. We're going to click this button right here. We can get a saturation or a vibrance mask. I want a vibrance mask for the weaker color, so I'm going to click on vibrance 4. That's generally the one I use. Sometimes I'll use 5 or 3, maybe even 6, but usually it's going to be 4. And I want to output this to a vibrance adjustment. So come here and click on the hamburger menu and click this button right here. And you're going to get a color and vibrance adjustment. Now this is new in the latest updates of Photoshop, where they've added temperature and tint, basically white balance along with vibrance and saturation. Before we just had vibrance and saturation, but this is nice. We now can do white balance right here in Photoshop, and I love that. I'll start with temperature. I want to warm this image up. Again, this is my interpretation, and I'm going to take it over to 14. And now we're going to work with the tint. I want to shift the tint a little more into the magentas. So we'll move this to the right over to right there, +15. And now let's work on the vibrance. I'm going to take this to the right, and I'm going to take it the whole way over to 73. And again, this is my interpretation. You don't have to do these adjustments. Do what you feel is best. And then I just want to add a little bit of extra saturation. So I'll take this over to right there, +15. Now let me shut off this layer. Here is before and here is after. Now don't forget, you can always pull back on the layer opacity. Right now I'm at 100%, and I'm using TK9 TK Opacity Plus. It's free. You can pick it up at Tony Kuiper's web store. I have links in the description below for it. But let's try it at 80%. Let me click on the 8. That's 80% or maybe 50%. And let's go back to 100%. I'll click on the 10. And I like 100%, so that's where I'm keeping it. Now, as I study this image, I'm looking at the fog back in here, and I just like to lighten that up a little bit. I think that'll look really enchanting, so let's do that. To do that, I want to target the fog, and I'll use a zone mask. So come to the multi-mask panel and click this button right here. And what we want to do is sample an area of the fog, maybe like right about here. Give that a click and click OK. And then we have this slider up here. We can fine tune this a little bit. Maybe I will move this over here to like 74. And then I want to tighten up that selection. So I'm going to pull this tighten slider into the left, and I'm going to take it over to like right about here. See, it really hones in on that fog. And I think I'll leave the brightness adjustment just where it is. I think that's going to be fine. I want to do some dodging on the fog, so I'll output to a dodge tool. Now, the dodge tool has two sides, left or right. You can use either side. I'm going to use the left side this time. Click this button on the left side, and you get a 50% gray pixel layer in the overlay blend mode. And you have a white brush, and I want a low opacity of 10%. Right now I'm at 100%. I'll type my 1 key, that gets me to 10%. And now with a nice soft edge brush, I just want to go and lighten up some of this fog. Now I haven't done anything yet, but remember, I'm painting through a selection and it's only targeting the foggy areas. So I just want to go ahead and, when I paint once, we add some lightening, and if I go over that again, it adds a little bit more. So just go and paint over some areas in here like so. I'm going to finish this up and get back to you and show you my final result, because I'll be painting all over this fog over in here and everywhere. So let me pause the video and I'll get right back. Okay, I am back. Now the fog is turned off. Let me go ahead and turn on the dodge layer. This is with the fog. So before and after. Isn't that cool, that nice lighting? And I even painted on some of the mist on the water around in here. And then over in this area in here where I wanted a less lightning effect, I reduced the opacity from 10% down to 5%. So, you can vary that opacity. Now that reminds me, head on over to Tony Kuiper's web store and you can pick up the new TK Brush Pilot, which helps you to quickly adjust the opacity, flow, and hardness of your brush. I'm not using it today, but I'll use it in probably next week's video. Now I'm going back to studying the image. I'm looking at the warm colors in the sky. I want to work in those, and I want to use a solid color adjustment layer to do that. So we're going to come up to the multi-mask panel and click on the color mask button, because I want to target these warm tones. So I'm going to click like right about here and click OK. And now all I want to do is take this brightness slider and lighten up my selection. You see how that's getting lighter to right about here. It's just selecting the warm colors. Now come to the hamburger menu right here. We're going to output. So click this button, and we want to output to a solid color adjustment layer. So click this button. And now we're going to click like right about here just to give us a rough estimation of the color. We're going to change it later and click OK. And when we do that, we get a solid color adjustment layer with that mask on it. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. See how it's changed a little bit right there? It's keeping the same color. Now I want to change it a little bit, so I'm going to double click this. It opens your color picker back up. And what I want to do, see the hex code right here. Now you can click this and move this around and change that color, and you could see it in real time. You could change how saturated or how light it is, or what the tint is down here by adjusting this slider right here. And you could see it all changing right before your very eyes, which is really cool. But what I want to do is enter my hex code in here for the color that I have chosen, which is FFB556, and I'll click OK. Now I only want this in the light tone, so I can use Edit Blend Diff to help me. Come to the multi-mask panel, click on the Edit Blend Diff button. I only want this in light tone, so I'm going to click on Lights 1. See how that changes? If I uncheck gray, you could see before Blend Diff, that's before and that's after. See how it's toned down? It's only in the very light areas now. So let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. And by the way, when you use a solid color adjustment layer with the TK panel, it sets you up in the soft light blend mode, which is the blend mode you'll normally use with a solid color adjustment layer. However, you could use linear light overlay, whatever you want, but this is a good starting point just to see what it looks like. And then you can change from there if you need to. I'm done with Edit Blend Diff. I'll click the X to close the panel. And what I want to do next is just darken up some of the shadows in the water, just a little wee bit. So I'll burn those, but I need to select them and I will use a zone mask to do that. So come to the multi-mask panel, click this button right here. A color picker comes up and I'm going to select this tone right here and click OK. And now I'm going to take this slider and fine tune it a little bit. And I think right there, like 65. Now I do want to tighten up that selection. So let's take this tighten slider into the left over to like right here. See how it's just isolating these darker shadowy areas. And now I want to output that to a burn tool. And again, just like the dodge tool, you have a left and a right side. I'm going to use the left side. It's a 50% gray layer in the soft light blend mode. And I want to use a low brush opacity of like 10%. So I'm going to type my 1 key. That gets me 10%. And all I want to do is paint over these shadows like this. Okay. And I'll just go over all these different shadows. I'll finish this up and get back to you. And again, if you paint once and paint again, you'll darken it a little bit more. I'll finish it off and get back and show you my final result. I'm back. Now, right now you're seeing the image without the burning. I'm going to turn on the burn layer. Here's my final result. There's my burning. I'll shut it off. There's before, there's after. Now, I think the effect's too strong, so you can pull back on the layer opacity, or if you have TK opacity plus, you can click any of these buttons up here to change the opacity. Let's go to 80%. I'm going to click on the 8. That tones it down a little bit, and I think I like that better. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after. I like that little bit of burning in the shadows. And now I do want to adjust the overall balance and contrast of the entire image. So come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button. I always click on midtones 3 just to protect shadows and highlights from getting clipped. And output this to a color grading tool by clicking on this button. I want to start out with midtones, so we'll click on the midtone button. I do want to lighten up my midtones a bit, so I'm going to take the brightness slider to the right over to 15, and now we'll click on the shadow button, and I just want to darken the shadows just a tiny wee bit over to -6, and now we'll click on the highlight button. And I just want to open up the highlights a little bit over to right there, 26. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. And now I'm looking at the blues, especially here in the fog, and I like to decrease that saturation just a little bit. So to do that, we're going to use a color mask to target that area. Right now, the color grading tool is in the way. Just click the X and click on the color mask button. A color picker comes up, and I want to sample that blue color, and I think right here should be good. I'm going to click that and click OK. And now we can lighten up that selection by dragging the brightness slider over to right about here. I'll put it to a saturation adjustment, click this button, and just take the overall saturation back. It's only targeting blues, you see, and I'm going to take it back to right here, -44. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. See, it just tones that blue down, and I like that much better. And now what I want to do is just apply the Orton effect to the very lightest colors of the sky, just to smooth it out a little bit. So come to the combo or 6 panel, click a TK button. If your TK actions aren't open, look for Orton effect, click that. Gaussian blur dialog comes up, just click OK. Now, I know that looks horrible, right? But here's what we do. Come over to the multi-mask panel, click on the Edit Blend If button, and I only want it in light tones, right? So click Lights 3 and see what it does. Now let me shut off the Orton effect. Here's before and here's after. See, it just smooths out the highlights up in here, and I really like that. Again, here's before and here's after. Now I'm done with Edit Blend If, so I'm going to click the X to close the panel. Well, just 2 steps to go. I'm going to close off the bottom of the image and close off the top, just to keep the viewer into the frame. So what we're going to do is use 2 multiply brush layers. I'll just go ahead and make those. Come to the combo or 6 panel, hold down your shift key and click on the multiply button 1 time, and now click it again. We have 2 multiply brushes. They are curves adjustment layers without an adjustment in the multiply darkening blend mode. Now click on the first layer. We're going to work on the bottom first. Click on your gradient tool. Make sure you click on linear gradient. Click the drop down. You want a white to black gradient. I'm just going to open up my TK gradients by clicking here and clicking on the white to black gradient. Make sure you don't have reverse checked on. And I'm just going to click right outside of the image about right here. Click and drag up to like right about here, holding your shift key to keep that line straight. You see that? Release the left click of your mouse. And now I'll shut this layer off. Here's before and here's after. See, it just darkens off the bottom of the image. If it's too strong, you can pull back in your layer opacity or change the opacity with TK Opacity Plus. Like there's 80%, but you know what? I like it at 100%. Again, here is before and here is after. And now let's close off the sky. So click on the top multiply brush layer. You should still have your gradient tool. You should still be in linear gradient, and you should still have the white to black gradient. And now click right about here outside of the image. Click, and you want to drag down to maybe right about here, holding that shift key to keep that line going straight. Release the left click of your mouse. Let's shut it off. Here's before and here's after. Now it's darkening these trees up here, but we can protect those trees by clicking on the Edit Blend If button and clicking No Darks Too. And see that darkening goes out of the trees. It just stays in the sky. So let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. And again, you can always lower the layer opacity if you need to. And I'll tell you what, let me click on the 8 for 80%. You know what? I think I like that better. That's 80%. There's 90%. Let's try 80%. Let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. You know, I think I like 80% better. And now let's see an overall before and after, where we started from and where we ended up at. So come to the Conversation panel, click this button. We started out here, click it again, and we end up here. So I'm really happy with the way this edit turned out. And I do hope you give it a try. And again, experiment on the image, make it your own. Don't forget, download the image and the PDF notes. If you would like me to edit one of your images on a TK Friday, go to the description of the video, scroll down near the bottom. You're going to find a contact me link. Contact me and we can discuss doing one of your images on a TK Friday. Well, there you go, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's full edit. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click the bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.